So my name is Debra, my son's name is Caleb, and we live in Glendora, California. I am a teacher. I have a background in special ed. Well, I just think that Caleb was definitely not being serviced in school, even though they definitely had services being provided for him. It was definitely evident that he needed more. And so it's a really long story. I won't jump into how we found the Stoll Learning Center, but it was recommended to us by somebody whose child was also diagnosed with a sensory processing disorder, which is, we had just got that diagnosis for Caleb. Didn't really understand it, but had the diagnosis. And then when we came in and had Caleb tested and started the different types of therapies and treatments and activities, I'm always at a loss for what to call them, but we started to see significant changes in Caleb's behavior. Most currently, I think the thing that has been a game changer for us is motivation. That was the number one. When his very first meeting that we had with teachers in an IST, everyone was very concerned, and so we sat down and had this meeting. The two things that everybody pointed out that was evident was his lack of social skills and his lack of motivation. And those were the two highest on my list, because as a teacher myself, if you can't motivate a student with positives or with negatives, it leaves you nowhere to go. And so we found him very much not motivated by anything. And it was really problematic at school, at home, and then just not connecting with other kids. He felt very lonely, even though kids liked him and he was able to play with kids, but his own perception of him, he could not relate to other kids. And so it's been 2 years and 4 months since we've been at the Stoll Learning Center, and we had his last IEP meeting, and everyone went around the room and said their strengths, and the room had completely changed since 2.5 years ago since we first had that meeting. And every single school personnel said two of his strengths were his motivation and his social skills. And I started crying. I was like, you don't even know I wish I could have tape recorded the first meeting. We've seen the academic growth, which is awesome, but those two things, that's immeasurable. Well, my biggest concern in the beginning was that this was going to be a tutoring center, especially because of the Learning Center title. So I was concerned that as much as academics was important, it wasn't the top of the list. So I was worried. I mean, at that point, when you have a kid, your child is struggling, you will do anything to have him succeed. The question is, will it work? And you don't know until you do it. So that was our biggest fear. There's a lot of money and it's a lot of time because we don't live close to Chino. We would do it if we knew it was gonna work, but you don't know it's gonna work until you do it. So we took a leap of faith and we started, and within 2 weeks we saw something. I didn't even associate with his diagnosis, but something Caleb was doing probably 8 to 20 times a day was chewing on his shirt. He would pick up a shirt, put it in his mouth, and chew on it. And I didn't associate it with him struggling. I just thought it was a habit. And he would have to change shirts 3 times a day. We threw away shirts, wet shirts down to his chest, the middle of his chest. And within 2 weeks of us starting, he stopped, just stopped, and never started again. And my husband and I looked at each other and thought, okay, this is working. It's a lot of money and it's a lot of time, but it's doing something. And so that was really encouraging, that within 2 weeks we saw changes, and then we kept seeing changes and growth. So the evidence was the changes that was happening in our son. I would say it's worth giving it a shot. I would say that it is a place where your child will be cared for, and that there really is a plan. It's not guesswork, and every child is different, but I think the reason why you see the same families, I see the same families in the waiting room, is because they're seeing something change, and that's what we want for our kids, is for them to change and grow and they're not accommodating like they are at school. That's fabulous. I think that we in special education, our kids have the opportunity to be accommodated, but here they're changing, they're growing, and that's exciting.